Hey everybody, JC here with another TNI toy review, and today we're taking a look at the new DC Collectibles 6-inch DC Comics Supervillains New 52 Joker figure. This is a figure of the Joker as he appears in the recent Batman comic book series in the New 52 line. We'll start things off by taking a look at the packaging, which is a pretty standard packaging we see with all the DC collectible figures. This is part of the DC Comics Supervillains line, so it's got the Supervillains logo at the top. The figure is displayed nicely in the window box packaging. For this particular figure, the highlights are black and green. You've got the figure's name at the bottom. And as I mentioned, you can clearly see the figure displayed in the window box packaging with all of its accessories. And this figure actually comes with quite a few accessories. We'll take a look at the back. Actually, on the side we have a picture of the actual figure, as well as credits for who sculpted it. This figure was sculpted by Phil Ramirez. And then on the other side we have a shaded in picture of the Joker character with his big white teeth smile standing out, which is kind of cool. And then on the back, finally, we have a thumbnail picture of the Joker figure, and then two other of the villain figures that are currently out on shelves. The supervillains Captain Cold and Black Manta, both also from the New 52 storyline. And then underneath that has a picture of the Joker figure standing off against the New 52 Batman figure. So pretty much simple packaging. Not a whole lot stands out about it. But it does allow you to see the figure nicely in the store before you purchase it, so you can check the figure out for any kind of flaws or anything like that. The art on the side with the Joker smiley face is kind of cool, but otherwise it's pretty basic packaging, and other than a little bit of a color variation, it's pretty much the same packaging you see with all the DC collectible figures. Okay, so let's take a look at the figure inside. Okay, here's a look at the figure out of the packaging. As you can see, like with most of the DC collectible figures, this figure sports a lot of detailing with the sculpt as well as the paint job. The figure is depicting the character from the New 52 storyline, The Death in the Family, where he's reattached his face after having it cut off at Arkham to basically signify his rebirth, and he's wearing the mechanic uniform, and he's got a tool belt with tools, both tools that are sculpted in the belt and tools that are removable. Again, a lot of detailing, especially on the head and face sculpt, where he's got his skin basically stapled back on as a mask. You can see parts of the face are exposed underneath the skin, and you can see the staples and everything that he used to attach the face back on, plus the strap. Just a lot of detailing in the sculpt and everything. It's really nice looking. And then on the uniform, a lot of shading. We've got the Joe name tag on the front shirt pocket sculpted on there, and then on the back you've got Joe's Garage. Again, a lot of nice shading on the back. And then even down here with the shoes, he's got his little pair of red socks on, sculpted laces on the shoes. On the bottom he's got one peg hole. And then on the belt, again, he's got a bunch of tools. A couple are accessories that are removable, like the iron or the wire cutters. at least one of the pair. This other pair of wire cutters are sculpted on, and these other tools in the back, the screwdrivers, and the wrenches and stuff, are all sculpted in there in the pouches. Okay, so for accessories, he comes with a number of tools that go on his utility belt. As I mentioned before, he's got the wire cutters that'll fit in the back, and you can pose it in either pocket. You can put it in, so both wire cutters are on the left side, and you can kind of put it out like that, or you can just fit it inside completely. And same thing with this side. And then on the front, he's got two loop type things on his belt where he can fit in his monkey wrench, hammer, and little saw knife thing. Now I want to point out with the saw knife that the blade is a very soft rubber and will bend very easily, so you want to be careful not to bend it too out of shape. He holds this weapon more so in his right hand. See there, and you can hold it in the upright position, or if you want to have it more in like a stabbing position. He actually holds it in the stabbing position a little bit better, a little bit tighter. Take that, Batman. The other hand, if you want him to hold it in the other hand, it's much looser fitting. It will hold it in there, but really to get it to stay, you want to try and kind of wedge it in between his thumb and his fingers. There's a little bit of a gap there, so you can wedge it in there, and then it'll hold it tightly. Hammer, same thing, soft rubber, and the handle gets wider towards the bottom, so you have to kind of, when you want to get it on the belt, you kind of have to push it through, but because it is a softer rubber, it'll sometimes bend, so you want to be careful. And then the same thing, you know, with this hand, with the left hand, he really won't hold the hammer tightly in the hole, so if you want to get him to hold it in that hand, you really kind of have to squeeze it in the fingers. And then he'll hold it pretty well in the right hand. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning. Yep, I won't sing anymore. Sorry. And then finally the monkey wrench he holds. Actually, the monkey wrench, again, is probably, because it's got such a thin handle, really doesn't fit very well at all. Even trying to get it in between his fingers on the left hand doesn't work terribly well. You can kind of have it sit in there loosely, but it'll fall out easily. So the right hand is the better hand to pose the monkey wrench in. And then as for the tool belt, you know, the pictures on the box have the monkey wrench on his right side, but really the monkey wrench and the hammer will fit in either pocket, or either loop there on the belt, so you can have it posed on either side. And then the knife just kind of, it's so thin it'll just kind of fit in the side on his left side with whatever tool you have in there. Okay, so let's take a look at the articulation on this figure. Like with most DC collectible figures in the new 52 line, articulation is probably the weakest thing about the figure. You know, great details with the sculpt and the paint, but the articulation is a little bit on the weak side. But again, if you've been collecting this line, you've become accustomed to that, so really no major surprises here. But let's just go over the articulation. The head, it can look left and right, no problem. It appears to be attached to some kind of ball joint. I can't get the head to pop off, so I don't want to break it. But if you kind of look up there, it looks like it's attached to a ball joint. You can kind of give it to tilt to the right or left if you want. But he doesn't have really any down or back motion on the head. In fact, the way the neck is sculpted, it's kind of sculpted so the head looks downward. So it really is kind of hard to get him to look just straight up. You kind of have to pivot him out, really, if you want him to look straight up. And then the arms are attached with a hinged ball joint. Has a fairly decent wide range of motion. The joints there in the shoulder, at least on mine, are a bit tight, so you know, will need to be careful when you first start trying to move it around. But it loosens up once you start using the figure and posing it. He's got the single jointed elbow, and then he's got the swivel at the wrist. Oh, and he's got a swivel bicep as well. And then for the waist, he's got the swivel waist, but no ab crunch joint of any kind. Then the legs are attached with a standard T-crotch, so no splits for the Joker. And then he's got just a single jointed knee, can only really bend the knee part way. Oh, and then one other thing I want to note that you want to be careful with is the way that the utility belt is sculpted on there. It prohibits him from moving his leg backwards too much. That's about as far back as you can get it. So, and you don't want to push it too far because these pouches on his belt are basically just glued on there. So if you try and push it and force the leg back at all, you risk breaking those pouches off. So just be careful with that. And then finally, he's got the swivel ankles, but no ankle pivot of any kind. So really, you're kind of limited in the number of poses you can get this figure in. Unfortunately, if they'd just given him even like some ankle pivots or something, you might have gotten him in some more kind of fighting poses of some type. But for the most part, you know, you just don't have a whole lot of poses beyond, you know, moving his arms around and such to get him in. But again, if you've been collecting the DC Collectibles line, then you should be used to that by now. So this figure, he stands about 7 inches tall. He's actually pretty tall. He's a little bit taller than the new 52 Batman figure from DC Collectibles. Also a little bit taller than the new 52 Captain Cold. Stands about the same height as Martian Manhunter, the new 52 Martian Manhunter figure. I think that's maybe a little bit too tall for the Joker. I don't really know how tall he's supposed to be in the new 52 comics. I haven't read the Joker storyline that closely, so you know, maybe they've made him a taller character, you know, in the new 52 universe. but to me it just seems a little bit tall. I don't really think Joker should be taller than Batman. But it's only by a smidgen, so it's not anything drastic. And then, unfortunately, you know, if you're a Mattel 6-inch collector, then you know that the DC collectible figures are just a little bit taller, so they don't really go in scale with the Mattel figures at all. So that's my review. I hope you enjoy it. And until next time, I'll catch you later.